Disclaimer, some of these stories are not exactly family friendly, especially not very child friendly. Some of them do use some strong language. Some of them do talk about some rather vile things sometimes. Others is just not exactly something some people might want their children or anyone else around them to hear. Not exactly public friendly. If you have a job in general, you know what I'm talking about. Some things that happen in life are just not public, perfect conversation. So, with that in mind, please keep in mind where you are listening to this, who you're listening to it around, and how you're going to listen to it. Also, if you have any stories that you would like to share with me, please send them my way. I am always up for more stories. I only have so much as my own. So, if you have anything you want to share with me, please feel free to share them with me in my email account. Send them to workwithalphag@gmail.com. That is workwithalphag@gmail.com. One last thing I wanted to remind you all about is please make sure you're following me. I am not just on one platform. I am on Spotify, Patreon, Castbox, Podbean, and Buzzsprout. So please, if you have any of those, Patreon is probably going to help me out the best. And hopefully later on, it'll be able to help you guys out as well. For $1 a month, you'll be getting ad-free episodes, as well as later on, I'm hoping to be able to do Q&As, just be able to talk with you guys, one-on-one conversations, group chats, whatever. So please, make sure you're checking it all out. Let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm your host Alpha, and this is Stories from Behind the Counter. In case you're new here, this is the podcast where we go over some of the stories of all the crazy stuff that we deal with in customer or mostly public-facing jobs. A lot of these stories are all things that you really can't make up if you tried, and most people aren't going to believe it unless they've dealt with it. So before we even start in on this episode, I want to thank you all again for anyone who has been listening the last few episodes. It really does help. This is something I really would like to continue on doing, whether it's full-time or continuing part-time, and just letting out episodes whenever I can. This is something I want to keep doing. So for anyone who has been sending any stories, I really do appreciate it. Keep sending them in anytime you think of them. With that being said, today we're going to be going over some of our listener stories or, friends of mine, people who have sent stories in. So none of these are actually mine. This first story comes from a former coworker of mine. I'm just going to call her Tia for now. Tia says, I worked in a state that was very racially intermixed, especially the town that I was in. Every race, creed, color you can think of, and then some. When I left, there was at least 35 known gang groups that had over 75,000 members in the area that were quote-unquote documented by the local PDs and gang task forces. I lived about 30 minutes, maybe more, away from the store that I worked at, so going home was not an option on lunch. I had gone on lunch one day and was on my way back in. I passed the normal fast food chain that was inside of the store, and I was on my way back to grab my work vest. All of a sudden, I hear something in the men's department, some sort of screaming. I just happened to be right in that area, so I looked over to see what was going on. Right there, middle of the day, middle of the men's department, is a guy, stroller in hand, and an infant in the stroller, holding a gun, pointing at the asset protection. AP had been following this guy, knowing that he was a shoplifter from previous encounters. The guy that had the gun had it pointed directly at the AP person's face, screaming, "You better back the fuck up, dude. I'm gonna shoot you. I don't know what the fuck you're going to do, but if you can't see, I'm about to shoot your stupid ass. Back off, motherfucker. I'm walking out of here with all this shit. I don't give a fuck about prison. I'll kill you." By this time, I had already secluded myself behind some stuff from the direct line of fire and hopefully from the guy's direct sight. The guy continued to yell as he was backing up, pulling the stroller with him. The AP guy had both of his hands in the air and he just kept saying, just take it. I'm not trying to stop you. Just leave. I don't care about you or the stuff you have. Just go. So at this point, the thief starts backing out of the menswear toward a wall. There was an exit that led out to a grassy area next to the main road that led all throughout town. Well, this guy backed out the door, pushed it open from the side with the little firearm, and walked right out into the waiting arms of about 10 police officers fully armed in SWAT gear. Obviously, he did not get very far. But either way, it was a very scary, crazy situation. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Tia. That's definitely something that happens in a lot of bigger cities, I'm sure, especially specific states that are known for their crime. So, yeah, it's kind of good not to hear just things from the little place that I live in. All right, moving on to the next story. This one is from a guy I know works at a scrapyard, and he's always a big ball of sunshine when I talk to him. Seems like from the moment he gets up to the time he goes to bed, he's always just a bright ball of sunshine trying to make everybody smile. So that's what we're going to call him. So Sunshine tells me that one day while he's working at this recycling yard, it's usually anything metal like cars, car parts, cans, etc. that are brought in. One day, Sunshine had a customer come in and try to sell or scrap her own tombstone. Apparently, as she got older, she decided to try and prepare for the inevitability of death that we all must deal with. Some people like to put it off as long as possible. Some try not to think about it at all. This lady tried to get ahead of the game, knowing how expensive it can be and how much trouble it can be when your family's grieving for them to try and do all of this afterwards. So, in an attempt to get ahead of the game, she bought a plot. She bought her headstone and started getting everything ready for her family so that they didn't have to worry about it once she did pass. Well, after a few years, as we all know, the economy just keeps getting worse and worse, and she continues to do some research and she realizes that it's just cheaper to get cremated rather than to be buried and have a plot. So she came in and she had to have help unloading this thing because, well, I don't know if you guys have seen most average tombstones, but they're not light. So she comes in and she just tells Sunshine, it's going to be cheaper to burn my ass than to bury it. Obviously, I can't sell this to anyone else. It's already got half my stuff engraved onto it, and they don't let me do a refund where I bought this. Well, obviously, this isn't exactly an everyday occurrence. This was the first time that poor Sunshine had dealt with something like this. But knowing there's a lot of red tape, stuff like that involving anything death-related, honestly. And of course, certain other materials, there's just a lot of red tape, especially with the unknown stuff, the unusual stuff. You want to make sure you're not going to get in trouble. You want to make sure it's not stolen. So he had to try and prove her story. They were, luckily enough, ultimately able to take it and melt it down after confirming her story. But, man, that was a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. Next story is also from Sunshine. It just happened to be shortly after this lady came in to sell this headstone, or scrap the headstone, I should say. Poor Sunshine's still working at the scrapyard, and another guy comes in, and he's got something that's also rather unique that he wanted him to sell or scrap or do whatever. He had a full metal casket. You know, the thing that you usually get buried in, but it was solid metal. Apparently, this gentleman owned one of the funeral homes here in our town, and he bought it thinking he'd be able to sell it. Maybe he would be a real great seller, better than the wooden ones. No, it did not sell at all. He had this thing on display for so long, no one ever wanted to bury their loved ones, much less themselves, in this cold metal casket that probably weighed more than the standard wooden ones, plus having the body inside of it. No one was going to deal with it. So after multiple attempts to sell this thing and failing, he decided he was just going to say screw it, try and get whatever he could back and give it to the scrapyard, just get rid of it. You know, just kind of cut all his losses. Obviously, again, this is not something that's very common in the scrap world, or at all, I'd imagine. So Sunshine, again, had to make sure that the customer had paperwork, ways to prove his story, make sure there's not something that was stolen from anywhere or anything else crazy. Luckily enough, again, they were able to verify it. They just needed to be able to make sure they could scrap it. But man, it really is interesting what people bring in and try to get money out of. Thank you so much, Sunshine, for sharing those stories. I hope to hear some more from you. I'm sure you have a wild, crazy world from the scrap world. Definitely some interesting people, as we all deal with. So this next story comes from somebody I'm going to call Birdie. I worked with Birdie at a retail place, but these stories that she shared with me actually comes from when she worked in law enforcement, more specifically at a detention center. Birdie starts out by saying, I worked at an unnamed men's county jail, the only female at the time, mind you. I had the pleasure and honor of working with some of the greats, truly mind-blowing, honor-bestowed heroes of the world. This was a multi-level facility with about 10 floors. This facility was the only high-rise in the area at the time and could be seen from afar and directly in view of the major highway. One day, two of the greats decided to get a bit spicy with some of the inmate sheets. Not within the sheets, mind you. So she's implying that they were not getting together or anything like that. They were deciding to play a prank, apparently. They took two sheets, stapled them together, making the area of coverage much larger. They sprayed the number of the sergeant's direct line on the sheets along with the word vacancy. They hung it over the top of the jail in plain view of the freeway. The rings and queries began. The sergeant's phone repeatedly slammed down and doors were flying open. With stomps of cowboy boots and aggravated shouts from a not-so-tall man, the sergeant was yelling at the top of his lungs, "Where's Tim? I know he's part of this shit. Get him down here now." No, Tim is not the actual name of the gentleman. I just gave him a name, as anonymity is key here. Birdie says, "Oh my God, I never laughed so hard in my life. And anyone who was there that day will remember that day as a point in history. The chuckles and the laughs to the tears all flowed and no one squealed, but everyone knew who pulled this prank. With all the negative things forced upon anyone in law enforcement, these periodic events of folly are necessary and needed and absolutely appreciated by those who are always having to take the bad in life day after day." I feel like that absolutely stands true in pretty much any line of work. It seems like anytime you're in any job, it gets more and more difficult to focus on the positive. And so sometimes you just have to make your own positivity, make your own fun, and get through the day, get through your job, however you can. This was an amazing story. Thank you, Birdie. Birdie actually has one more for me. Birdie is on the graveyard shift at the same place. The guys are harassing her over her small chest size. She wanted me to make sure I put this disclaimer in. She did not believe this was meant as sexual harassment. It was just meant in all good fun. They did this to each other regularly, everybody, apparently. So, putting that out there, this is in her own words from her. Anyway, four of us kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and they would not believe that I was a 34B. In my defense, I only weighed about 118 pounds, so I went to the locker room, took off my red bra, and I brought it back out to Central Control, and I was showing them the size on the label. Well, quick as a flash, one of the guys grabbed it, ran outside, and ran it up the flagpole in front of the courthouse just as the LT was making a surprise graveyard visit. As the lieutenant came through the opposite door, oh my God, did the remainder of the guys scramble. I was stuck, and I couldn't leave my post. So there I sat, braless, wondering if this was my last night on the job. But oh my God, I've never seen those guys disappear so fast. They ran out the opposite door of the lieutenant so that he couldn't see them, all the way to the front so that they could get this apparently tiny bra down. I've never seen this so fast in my life. Again, it's the same jail, different guys, but many of whom I am still friends with even 40 years later. All ended well with no one else the wiser. A close one, indeed. Thank you so much, Birdie, for your stories. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting more from you sometime soon. This next one is actually going to be from another friend of mine, and he calls these ones official stories of a gas station clerk. He promised me this is just part one, and he's going to be getting me some more stories as soon as he can. I know we all have busy lives, but let's get into the story. My friend that works at the gas station, we're going to name him Twiggy. Twiggy starts out by saying, "One day, I was just relaxing behind the register, minding my own business, counting cigarettes, and just doing whatever needed to be done. I really can't remember exactly what I was doing at that point, but I know I had a routine. I remember I was thinking about maybe dusting and checking on the bathrooms when this lady walks in and asks if she can use the phone. This lady was about 4'8", blonde hair, and probably in her late 50s, early 60s, wearing a small jacket and some jeans on. Well, after having been nice and lending my personal cell phone to someone else in the past, I've just learned it's better not to. Just the day before, I had somebody call me and yell at me over my own personal phone, asking who I was and why I was calling their girlfriend's number at 2 in the morning. Story for another time, he promises. So I politely told the customer no, I was not going to be able to let them use my personal phone, and I cannot let the customers use the work phone. She proceeds to tell me that she just got out of jail and she needed help. Honestly, I was in a bit of a snarky mood from the day before, so I said, well, that's not my problem. You're free to use the restroom or see if someone else will help you. But before I could say the word help, she interrupts me, yelling, "Are you fucking kidding me? I'm stuck in this rank-ass town and they took all my drugs. Well, I'm going to call the cops if you don't let me use the phone." I replied with, "I'd really rather not call the cops, please. I've already had to call them twice this week." She said, "Well, you're going to have to." This customer then proceeds to walk over to the beer aisle, grab a Four Loko, and before I really got the chance to ask her to just put it back, she responds with, "Well, you're going to have to call the cops," and proceeds to crack it open and just starts chugging this thing. Of course, I then proceed to call the cops. The customer starts cussing and walks outside saying, "Call the fucking cops." I was shaking from a little bit of an adrenaline dump, not knowing what else she might do, but I called the cops regardless. I helped a few other customers while she was outside doing her own thing, cussing at people, screaming, and finally the cops show up. I start hearing a little more yelling outside, and then I hear something slam into the wall outside. The customer in front of me at the register looked up and said, "Holy shit, did you just hear that?" To which I responded with, "Yep, crazy lady done did a goof. She stole a Four Loko." Another customer told me that they were outside and seen it. They had shoved her against the wall and arrested her. The cops came in and asked if there was anything else that I needed from them and if I wanted to press charges, making sure everything was okay. I just told them, "Yep, what's with the lady? Is she on something?" The cop just said, "I don't know. Don't worry, she's going back to jail." So later on, a guy that works at the prison happened to see what happened as well, and he told me that she ended up getting shoulder checked. They kicked her off the property of the jail because she wouldn't leave. My afterthoughts are, I felt bad for the lady until she stole from me and started cussing at everybody. After that, well, it just got crazy. This is me speaking as Alpha again. My personal thoughts on this story is I do feel bad for this woman as well. Apparently she was going through some stuff and she felt like there was no other option but to do something very dramatic. Unfortunately, it got her roughed up a bit and thrown in jail. Then later, she was kicked out of that said jail when she refused to leave after her time was done. I just see it as very sad that we have so many people that, for whatever reason, see that as their only option when the first couple of things, if they even try anything, seemingly don't work out. People just say fuck it and do something that they feel guarantees them at least 3 hots and a cot, I guess. And maybe for some, a way to detox more? I don't know. But either way, it's extremely sad. But on that note, I think we're going to go ahead and call this an episode for today. I know it's a little bit shorter than usual. I do apologize. I try to keep them around the 30-minute mark. This one's a little bit short of that, but that's just how it kind of worked out with the stories this time today. Thanks again for listening, guys. Obviously, I try to keep everyone's identities safe so that they can be protected so there's no backlash from any of these companies or anyone else for any reason whatsoever. So for everyone sending in their stories, I thank you. Whatever I call you on the show is all you will ever be known as. With that being said, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Denise Esparza For the artwork, she's the one who did the little thumbnail that you see when I upload all of my episodes, and I do look forward to working with her for any changes in artwork that I decide to do later. If you're interested in seeing anything else and more artwork that she does, you can follow her on Nisi Art on Instagram. That's NEISSE _ART on Instagram. Also, big shout out and a thank you to Nivation. He's the one responsible for the music you hear at the beginning and the ending of the episodes. If you wish to follow him and see what else he provides musically, that is Nivation. Spotify is the only platform that he gave me to shout him out on, but I just wanted to make sure he got the credit for what he did for me. I really do appreciate everything you guys have done for me to help me get this show started and to keep it going. Thank you guys. I really honestly could not have done this without you. For everyone else, thank you again for all your stories. I hope that you guys are enjoying this. One last reminder, please do not forget to check me out pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. That's where I'm trying to get to. Obviously, the biggest ones I'm going to be on are Patreon and Spotify, but check me out, see where you can find me. Patreon will be the biggest help for me, and as I'm pretty sure I've stated before, that will also help you guys later on. I'm hoping to be able to do live Q&As. I'm hoping to be able to do conversations, one-on-one chats, group chats. I don't care. Maybe like some of the other people I've listened to doing podcasts, we can even make trips out of this and just make it a community. I just want to have fun with this. So I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope you can help make the community I'm looking to make. Thanks again, guys. This is Alpha signing off. See you next episode.